And we're pleased to also host Ambassador Stefan Seibert, the German ambassador to Israel. Mr. Ambassador, thank you for joining us. Let's talk about Germany's position. As Owen made clear in that report, I think certainly among Western Europe, strongest support for Israel. Chancellor Scholz even today making a very strong tweet in support of Israel on the issue of the hostages. But maybe go into a little more detail on Germany's position on the current conflict.
Well, it all goes back to October 7th. Something unprecedented, unspeakably brutal happened, the terroristic attack against Otef Aza. And from there stems the right of Israel to defend itself, and that doesn't only mean self-defense, it also means making sure that no such terroristic attack can ever happen again, that Hamas must not be in a situation to repeat this. So that means the war aim of Israel, which we share, is the elimination of Hamas as a military or political force in Gaza. And that's what this war is about.
Right. Now, one word that the chancellor did not use in his tweet today, I noticed, was ceasefire. He did speak about humanitarian pauses and concern for also civilians in Gaza. So how does that square also with Germany's backing of the military aims put out by Israel in this conflict?
Well, our concern, obviously, this is a war being conducted in a very densely populated area with 2 million people crammed into relatively little space. So it creates horrible conditions for the people living in Gaza, and we see that very clearly. It does not take anything away from the right of Israel to defend itself. We are constantly assured by the Israelis, by the IDF, that they take every precaution to fight this war according to the rules of humanitarian law, international humanitarian law. And as partners and friends of Israel, I think we must first of all, yes, trust our Israeli friends that they do this, but also when it doesn't seem to work quite that well, we have to tell them and we have to speak to them. The situation around the hospitals is very difficult. Hospitals, according to international humanitarian law, cannot be a military aim or a military target, but when they are misused, when they're abused by Hamas as, underground headquarters, and that changes the legal situation.
Or where hostages are being held, potentially.
Or where hostages are being held, exactly. We saw the pictures yesterday coming out of this one hospital, the name I cannot quite remember now, where quite obviously...
Rattisi Hospital, yeah.
Rattisi, exactly. Where quite obviously hostages had been held.
Right.
So this is what Hamas does. It makes use of these very civilian places to conduct their evil business, and yet we are in constant conversation with the Israelis about doing everything to spare civilian lives.
Right. Now, Germany has its national position, but it is part of course, the European community and the larger constellation, I would say, of the Western alliance of nations. Our Foreign Minister Eli Cohen yesterday said he estimates maybe a diplomatic window of even another 2 or 3 weeks, speaking about that larger community where there might be pressure put on Israel, for example, for a ceasefire. How do you assess Germany's, in its dialogue with its other members, especially in the European community? We've heard different voices, for example, coming out of Paris, for one thing.
I wouldn't want to give any timeline. I think this would be very wrong for us to say, okay, we can only be with you if this takes X days. This is wrong. Israel is conducting this war. The war aim is the elimination of Hamas in Gaza. I think this is also to the benefit of the people of Gaza. The Palestinians must be freed from Hamas. I think this is something we can share. So I can't give you a timetable. This is not unusual in Europe that 27 member states do not exactly always sing from the same song sheet, but we share the overarching goal, and this is to stand by Israel and to make our support and our solidarity with Israel a substantial and sustained one, and also a practical one. Yes, we may disagree about wording here and nuances there, but I think Europe stands with Israel. There can be no doubt about that.
All right, now Israeli officials are reluctant to talk about the day after while it is still the day of, but I presume those discussions are going on both among the leaders of your country, and of course Europe as well, which may well have a key role in what comes in the day after. Can you give us an idea maybe of the thinking?
Well, I think it's important to start at least thinking and discussing the day after, because it would be far too late if you start doing that when the war has been decided anywhere. So yes, we, and I'm sure the Americans and all other friends and partners of Israel, take part in this conversation with our Israeli partners. Our foreign minister said the other day when she was here on the weekend, she said there are certain things that must not happen, and I think this is also in line with what the Israeli government thinks. We must not see a solution for Gaza that goes over the heads of the Palestinians. We must not see a reoccupation of Gaza. And we hear that the Prime Minister also rules that out. He says we do not want to go back and stay in Gaza. And we must not see a reduction of the territory of Gaza.
Right.
Those three things. But of course, that leaves an awful lot to still be solved and to still be discussed. But I think these are three basic rules upon which we can build. It's quite clear that this is something that will have to be a multinational effort, probably. It will have to be with the assistance of the more moderate Arab states. I think this is very important. That's why it's important to also keep them on board. Yeah.
Now, could I ask about the situation within Germany itself? We have seen a surge of anti-Semitism, we should say, throughout much of the world, certainly much of Europe, even in the United States. And there has been in Germany incidents ranging from this arson attack on a synagogue in Berlin. Some of the marches that we've seen, which are to some degree pro-Palestinian, but also has to be said, elements that are anti-Israel to the point of being anti-Semitic or pro-Hamas.
Well, I think in a free society like Germany, it must be okay to have a pro-Palestinian demonstration, and it will always be okay. What will never be okay, what cannot be okay, is to have a demonstration in sympathy with Hamas, or a demonstration that denies what happened on October 7th, or a demonstration that says from the river to the sea, basically meaning that there can be no Israel.
Right.
Anyone denying the right of existence of the State of Israel will have German politics and German law against him. I think the majority of Germans, the vast majority of Germans, are on the side of Israel on this one, but there are shocking and to me very painful incidents of demonstrations where people wave Caliphate, ISIS flags, and where they chant these things that I just told you. And I think we have to be very strict about this. We have to take a very firm stance, also in terms of using the law against this. It's something that you need to deal with by the law, but it's also something that every citizen is called upon to stand up against. Every citizen should say, okay, you can criticize the Israeli government. You can criticize the Israeli politics on the Palestinian conflict, and the German government has often been very critical of that. But you cannot deny the right of existence, and you cannot overlook what happened on October 7th.
Right.
And I think these are things that we all have to deal with. We have a big job to do, also in Germany, in Europe, in the United States, to deal with this.
All right. And lastly, you put out on your social media a photo of your putting out of doing some agricultural volunteering with the many Israelis doing agricultural work down south. How did you enjoy that, and why did you decide to join in that effort down south?
Well, very simply, I did it because I knew that the need was there. These farmers have They have no Thai workers left. They have no Palestinian workers left. And yet, you know, the clementines and the tomatoes need to be picked. It is a very, economically, it's a very difficult situation for them, on top of everything else. So with a couple of, you see the picture there, a couple of colleagues, couple of friends, we went down there and went to Moshav Yesha.
Yeah.
It was a very fulfilling day. It was wonderful to see the other volunteers. It's something I will repeat, maybe not every weekend, but I will certainly go back. And it was very fulfilling, and it was wonderful to speak to the farmer and to have this impression that at least we could help him with a couple of hours worth of work.
All right. I hope we got to take some of those tomatoes home. They're
excellent. They're excellent.
They're really good tomatoes.
I can assure you of that. Also
right.
the clementines.
All right, Ambassador Stefan Seibert, thank you for joining us.